Who are the best head coaches in the SEC? These are my postseason head coaching rankings for the 2024 college football season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. The following is brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Again, guys, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $300 in bonus bets today. Who are the best head coaches in the SEC? We talked just that today here on my 2024 postseason SEC football head coach rankings. As we pull up each of my selections, we will start at number 16, and coming in at the bottom is Mississippi State head coach Jeff Lebby. Guys, I'm a Jeff Lebby guy. I like Jeff Lebby. I think the future of Jeff Lebby is bright and starkful. But after a really rough year one in his first ever head coaching job, there isn't much reason for me to move him out of this spot. Again, of course, he was number 16 in the preseason because he had just never been a head coach before. And if you go 2-10 and not only do that, but lose to the Toledo Rockets in blowout fashion at home, I think Jeff Lebby's an offensive mastermind. I think Jeff Lebby can, again, do some good things in Starkville and get Mississippi State football back to, at minimum, making bowl games on a yearly basis. But right now, going off what we know, this is where he deserves to be. Jeff Lebby coming in at number 16. Number 15, this is where things start to get interesting because for me, at number 15, I've got Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze. And guys, I don't feel bad about it. I don't care anymore that Hugh Freeze beat Nick Saban a decade ago. It just doesn't matter to me. That doesn't move the needle for me anymore. Doesn't mean anything. Hugh Freeze at one time was a great head football coach. Again, he was able to beat the GOAT. Maybe when RPO was first rolled out and that was a brand new thing. But guys, from what I've seen from him at Auburn, his first 2 years, and I know Auburn folks will push back and say, look at the way he's recruiting, look at the portal pickups. He's brought a lot of talent to the Plains. There's no question. But look at the results. Is there anybody in the conference who's doing less with more than Hugh Freeze is? So I don't have any reason really to have optimism, even with bringing in Jackson Arnold and Cam Coleman's coming back and some of the other pieces you had in the portal, that things are going to get much better. I mean, I know Peyton Thorne's going to get the brunt of the blame. It is what it is. But for that team this past season to win 5 games with the talent they had on the roster, and if we're honest with ourselves, Auburn folks, if you're honest with yourself, you know as well as I do on a week-in, week-out basis, it was coaching malpractice on a week-in, week-out basis. Hugh Freeze at one time was a really good football coach. Right now, I think he's extremely average. No, by the way, things I've heard from folks who cover the Auburn Tigers about Hugh Freeze behind closed doors, the way some of his players feel about him, doesn't make me feel any more confident, and it makes me feel very confident in where I've got him on this list. Guys, number 14, I've got Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables. Rough year one in the SEC. This year, I think, is going to be really the tell-all for Brent. But, you make a bowl game, sure, but you lose to Navy in the bowl game. We knew it was going to be a really rough year one for you because of the offensive line, questions at quarterback. Nobody could have predicted, obviously, all the injuries that took place. But, I mean, there's nothing I saw from Brent Venables. When you look at the rest of the SEC, a lot of great coaches we're going to talk about. This is about where I see Brent Venables right now. He's a guy that, sure, he had that 110-win season, year two, but it's been sandwiched in between now 2 6-win seasons, right? 2 very average and pedestrian and mediocre seasons. Brent Venables is making history for all the wrong reasons in Norman when you think about the proud history and tradition that they have. So Brent Venables for me, number 14. And number 13, guys, I got Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman. Why is Sam Pittman ahead of Brent Venables? Well, guys, I've seen Sam Pittman win 9 games in the SEC before. At least he's still got that going for him. Guys, anytime you have to start the conversation with, well, he's a really good guy. He's really likable. I'm really pulling for Sam Pittman because he's such a great dude. Yeah, that's how you know things are going to shit. That's how you know things aren't going very well. Is Sam Pittman a bad football coach? I don't think he's a bad football coach. He just kind of is what he is. And I feel for Arkansas fans because the Sam Pittman tenure is what it is. I mean, Arkansas is probably going to go 5-7, 6-6. Maybe they scratch and claw their way to 7-5. But you don't really have hope and real belief that, man, this is a program on the rise. This is a program that's ascending that, could compete in the next few years in the SEC to win 9 or 10 games, make a college football playoff. The program feels and the message feels very stale right now. Again, I like Sam Pittman, but the fact that I have to preface it and kind of soften the blow with that statement should tell you where things are. Number 13 right now, very fair ranking in my mind. And again, you got great coordinators. He surrounded himself with great coordinators with T. Will on defense and Bobby Petrino on offense. And there's no reason for us to believe the Sam Pittman era in 2025 is going to be anything other than what it's been, which is, they'll surprise some people every now and then. It'll be a roller coaster, up and down, inconsistent, probably land somewhere around 6-6. And if that's good enough for Arkansas, you've got the right head coach for as long as you want him. But if it's not, it's time to move on. And number 12, I've got Kentucky's Mark Stoops. Again, why is Mark Stoops so high, especially after a 4-8 season? Well, I bumped him down from when I had him in the preseason. But guys, again, Mark Stoops has won 10 games before. And he's won 10 games at Kentucky. So as bad as this past season was, and again, I moved him down a few notches, the guy hasn't completely forgotten how to coach, I don't think. It's almost like the job at Kentucky is becoming harder because I think the Kentucky stigma still exists. And I do hold Mark Stoops accountable for his swings and misses at the OC spot. I mean, this Bush Hamdan experiment hasn't gone well. The Brock Vandagriff thing was a complete nightmare. We'll see what they do at quarterback and offensively moving forward. Also, they've gotten away from really their identity. And I think what made Kentucky and helped build the Mark Stoops tenure, which is the big blue wall, the offensive line, this was a big year previously, I thought, in 2024. Really going to show us the trajectory of what the Mark Stoops era is. Well, you went 4-8. So I say 2025 is a big year, but I kind of feel like we're past that point. It kind of feels like Pittman at Arkansas, too, where it's just like, we're in the wilderness with Mark Stoops, man. I don't know what to think anymore, the Mark Stoops era at Kentucky. If they have another bad season, they miss a bowl game again, not only do I think it'll show the Stoops tenure is over, or it should be over, I think what it's going to show is Kentucky started to revert back to old Kentucky. They're starting to revert back to pre-Stoops Kentucky, and that's not a Kentucky anybody in Lexington wants to see. Guys, number 11, I got Billy Napier. I absolutely could have vouched for Billy Napier higher. After the way they finished the season, winning 8 games, winning the bowl game, I think I just need to see more from Billy. You were able to pick off LSU. You were able to pick off Ole Miss. You had you beat Florida State. I know they weren't very good, but you still beat your rival in their place. You go win 8 games. You beat Tulane, win a bowl game. There's still more for Billy Napier to prove, and I think if they can build off that, if they can win 8 games again, win 9 maybe with DJ Lagway, maybe they're knocking on the door for the college football playoff. Billy Napier shoots up this list for me. Right now, I just need to see more because the body of work still tells me Billy Napier is not a great head coach, right? But I think that can change rather rapidly depending on what happens in 2025. But again, the league is loaded with great coaches. 11 for Billy Napier right now feels right. And number 10, I've got Vanderbilt's Clark Lee. This is a guy that shot up this list, was at the bottom of the list in the preseason. Obviously, you go win 7 games at Vanderbilt. You deserve this, if not even higher. Clark Lee, one of the masterful jobs in 2024. What he did from the recruiting side of things in the portal, getting Diego Pavia to come over and the hires he made, anointing himself, taking over the defense, right? That was one of the biggest changes and one of the biggest positives, I think, led to Vandy's 7-win season. So Clark Lee, an incredible job. Great season for the boys in Lot 2. Great season with the folks in Nashville. And Clark Lee, again, just a masterful job to go win 7 games and really, revitalize and revive that Vanderbilt program that we didn't know what to think coming in the 2024 season. Coach of the year. SEC Coach of the Year. He wins the award. Well-deserved. Nobody deserved it more than Clark Lee. And number 9, I've got Texas A&M's Mike Elko. This feels right for me for Mike Elko. A solid year 1, but not great. when they sat 7-1, I'd have probably said, man, he's vaulted himself up as a top 5 head coach in the league. You go lose 4 of your last 5, and essentially the last month plus the season, you don't beat a Power 4 team. Your one win was against, I think it was New Mexico State or New Mexico or one of those schools. That was it. You lost to Auburn. You lost to South Carolina. You lost to Texas. You lost in the bowl game to USC, obviously. So, for Mike Elko, I think he's the right fit for Texas A&M. But right now, it's just still very much wait and see. And I think that's the reason for sort of the middle of the pack ranking right now. And number 8, I got South Carolina's Shane Beamer. Great year for South Carolina. Great year for Shane Beamer. A team that wasn't expected to do much of anything to those outside of Columbia, South Carolina. Most are expecting, hey, if you can get to 6-6, that's a great year for the Gamecocks. Brand new quarterback in Lenore Sellers. A defense that's retooled. Talent you brought in, but retooled. And, I mean, everything clicked for them. Everything clicked. You had the one ugly game against Ole Miss at Williams-Brice. I mean, outside of that, man, the only thing you change if you're a Gamecock fan is, some of the calls in that LSU game. But to win 6 straight down the stretch, beat your arch rival Clemson, you had the thrilling win over Mizzou, you snap that ugly streak. The loss to Illinois in the bowl game, it dampens the season a little, but still, you win 9 games for just the 8th time in school history, 9 games in the season, just the 8th time in school history. And this was a big year for Shane Beamer. And guys, last offseason, we were having conversations about Shane Beamer and what's the temperature of his seat? Is his seat warming up? God forbid, is it hot? All of those talks have been squashed. Again, you look at body of work. I think Shane Beamer still kind of middle of the pack right now. Another big season would elevate him. But certainly, I mean, again, you look at his tenure. This will be going into year 5. And guys, 3 of his 4 years there in Columbia, he's overachieved the preseason expectations, winning 7 games in year 1, winning 8 games in year 2. Obviously had the rough year 3 with Spencer Rattler and company, but year 4 gets back to 9 wins. And again, Lenore Sellers back in 2025. A lot of optimism surrounding that Gamecocks program, and certainly Shane Beamer, his coaching abilities and what he did this season, a big reason why. Number 7, I've got Eli Drinkwitz of the Missouri Tigers. Again, people will ask, why is Drink ahead of Shane Beamer when Shane Beamer just beat him? Well, guys, look at the record. I know he just beat him in the last one, but look at the record. And Mizzou just won 10 games. Again, Eli Drinkwitz has done an incredible job with that Mizzou football program. What do they have to do to take that next step? That next step of getting to a playoff, we'll see. That's probably the only knock I've got against Drink is, you felt like things set up really, really well for Mizzou in the 2024 season. They just could not capitalize, could not take advantage. They had 3 big opportunities. You win one of the 3, you're probably in the playoff, and they lost all 3, including 2 blowouts to A&M and Alabama. Of course, the 3rd loss to South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium. But still, Eli Drinkwitz, I know people love to hate on this guy. He's a dork. He's a nerd, but he wins football games. And Mizzou, don't look now, just won 10 games again. So Missouri football isn't going away anytime soon. We'll see what they get out of their new quarterback, Bro Pribula, the Penn State transfer, but I don't think Mizzou is going to go away anytime soon. At number 6, guys, I got Alabama's Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer fell a few spots for me from the preseason rankings. I had him, I think, at 3rd in my preseason rankings for the 2024 season. I mean, listen, man, you go win 9 games at Alabama in year 1. I believe all 4 losses, Alabama was favored. So you went 0-4 in those games. You were favored in all those games. Now, Kalen DeBoer's been to a national title. Give him credit. But what is he in the SEC? And it doesn't help. He's at probably the toughest job in college football right now from the standpoint that he's still replacing the GOAT. He's replacing Nick Saban. He's the guy following the GOAT, and you typically never want to be that guy. I don't think Kalen DeBoer has just forgotten how to coach football. I think Alabama is probably going to be slept on and undervalued going in the 2025 season from a prediction standpoint, a gambling standpoint, everything above, everything in between. But I got my doubts with Kalen DeBoer right now. I have my doubts with Kalen DeBoer. So this year 2 is going to be really interesting. He falls out of the top 5 for me. He's at number 6. Guys, I just mentioned gambling. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because this segment brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel takes the NFL playoffs to the next level, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Guys, the FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only, $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, let's get to the top 5, guys. At number 5 in my postseason head coach rankings, I've got Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin. It was impossible for me to put Lane Kiffin any higher because of the fact, and I like Lane Kiffin. I'm a big Lane guy. I'm a huge Lane Kiffin guy. I think he's a great coach, offensive mastermind. He's a wizard on Twitter, for whatever that means for his ranking. But he's again, what he's done in Oxford, making Ole Miss nationally relevant, the talent they're pulling in the portal year after year. They just signed a top 15 signing class. Ole Miss is they'll never be the same because of Lane Kiffin. That's also why I have him 5th, though, because you had the most talented roster on paper in school history, and you went 9-3. 10-3 with a bowl win, but 9-3. Could not make the college football playoff. Lost to the Kentucky Wildcats, who finished 4-8. Lost to a Florida team that, granted, Florida played well on the stretch, but you were better than. I mean, the whole last dance thing, for it to fall through, I like Lane a lot. I do. Again, I'm a big Lane Kiffin fan. But after you do that, you fall short in a year where you had, with that schedule, no excuse not to make the college football playoff. And you fall short. I like Lane Kiffin a lot, but that's as damning as anything. So, 5th for Lane Kiffin. I feel good about that ranking. I think it's well-deserved. Number 4, I got Tennessee's Josh Heupel. Guys, I don't know that Josh Heupel, I still don't think we talk about it enough, what Josh Heupel's done with that Tennessee football program. Like, I don't know if, and I'm not saying Vol fans take it for granted. I'm not saying that. But when you think about the dumpster fire that Josh Heupel inherited in Knoxville, and now we're talking about Tennessee going 10-2, going to a college football playoff, I understand the loss to Ohio State and Columbus was embarrassing. I totally get it. I'm not saying it wasn't. But it was an Ohio State team that won the national title. And we now got Tennessee folks that after Tennessee loses that game saying, man, Heupel just, I don't know if he's it. I don't know that he's the guy. Guys, don't lose your happiness on the pursuit for more. Great quote. Because you may think the grass is greener. You may not be happy with how the season ended, but don't forget what Josh Heupel has done and what he's built in Knoxville. He doesn't get enough credit for it. He doesn't. Again, they were terrible. Tennessee football was terrible for over a decade. And Josh Heupel came in immediately, right? You won 7 games in year 1. Ho-hum. Year 2, you explode. 11 wins. Year 3, a little bit of regression, but I think the new floor was established. You won 8 games. And then in year 4, you go 10-2 and you get to the college football playoff. You beat Alabama. He's beaten Alabama, guys, twice. Tennessee hadn't beaten Alabama before he got there in, 15 years? So, I mean, certainly we can nitpick, and the expectations in Knoxville are as high as anywhere. And I'm not telling Tennessee fans not to have high expectations. But Josh Heupel's a top 5 coach in this league at minimum. And what he's done on Rocky Top, again, I don't know that we talk about it enough because they were a mess when he got there, And he's now gotten Tennessee football back to a place where yearly college football playoff appearances are expected. And I think that really speaks to the job he's done. Now, big year upcoming for Heupel, no doubt. You got to go to the swamp again. This game is now late in the season. In the 2 seasons he's coached at Tennessee, when they had to go to Florida, they lost both times, and they finished with 7 wins and 8 wins in the regular season, respectively. So it's a big year, but the guy's a top 5 head coach. And I don't know that we give him enough credit for what he's done on Rocky Top when you think about what he inherited. Guys, at number 3, speaking of a head coach that catches, in my opinion, an absurd amount of disrespect. And number 3 is LSU's Brian Kelly. Guys, I didn't get more pushback for any of these than this one. This is the one I got the most pushback over. My question to you is simple. If not Brian Kelly at 3, then who? Who deserves to be at 3 more than Brian Kelly? Lane Kiffin? Heupel? Some of you have said Kalen DeBoer. Guys, only 3 coaches in this conference active have been to the SEC championship game. The 2 ahead of Kelly and Brian Kelly. And I don't know if it's because it obviously started at Notre Dame. He couldn't win the big game, quote unquote. You saw a lot of that chatter in the postseason between Notre Dame and LSU fans. Couldn't win the big game. We're better off without him. You know, and I understand they underachieved this past year. Won 8 games, won 8-4. 8-4, heck, 9-3 gets you fired in Baton Rouge. Talk to those folks down there for longer than 30 seconds. They'll make that very clear. But Brian Kelly's still one of the best coaches in the league, guys. He proved that. He's proven that. I mean, the guy won 10 games in year 1, got to the SEC title game. He's produced a Heisman Trophy winner. I blame Matt House more than Brian Kelly for the defense not being worth a shit, not being able to get them to double-digit wins. This past season, they absolutely underachieved. There is no question. But I give Kelly a lot of credit, too. They've gone out in the portal. They've added pieces. LSU has not messed around this offseason. They've made it very clear they know, Brian Kelly knows they fell short of what the expectations were, and they're doing everything in their power to correct that, fix it. Now, will they? We'll see. I'm not saying some of the criticism of Brian Kelly are not fair about winning big games, winning a national title. But when it comes to the rest of the coaches in the SEC, guys, he's done just as much as some of the top guys in the conference without the national championship. I mean, again, only 3 coaches have been to an SEC title game in this conference. He's one of them that are active. He's one of them. So I don't fully understand the hate that Kelly gets. All he does is win a lot of football games. I know he hasn't won a national title. So is everybody else on this list. Outside of one other guy. 2 other guys. 1 other guy. What am I doing? 1 other guy. BK is the top 3 head coach in this conference. Guys, at number 2, I got Texas's Steve Sarkisian. Fantastic year 1. This is where I had him in the preseason. All he did was reaffirm and strengthen my belief. Number 2 in the conference. One of the best head coaches in college football. Leading Texas, again, to an SEC title. Multiple playoff wins. Had a shot to go to the national championship. Ran into the buzzsaw that was Ohio State. You know, Sark is one of the best head coaches in college football. This year, too, in the SEC will be big, obviously, with Arch Manning at quarterback, some changes. But I think what he's built there in Austin, man, they're going to be here to stay. I love what he's done there on the offensive side. The way they built up the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively. He's completely transformed that program since when he got there. Again, Texas was a program completely lost in the wilderness. And for him to get them back where it's like, man, didn't win a national title, so we didn't have a good year. Hey, you're in a good spot. Texas, the only program back-to-back top 4 finishes. The only program in college football that did that. That's saying a lot. That's a feather in his cap. Sark, easily one of the best coaches, not just in this conference, but in all of college football as well. And guys, number 1, it's still Kirby Smart. Excuse me. It's still Kirby motherfucking Smart. That's who's number 1. It's still Kirby, man. You beat Sark twice. Not once, but twice. And this Georgia team wasn't great. He'd tell you that. This wasn't his best Georgia team by a mile. But I think it almost speaks more to what Kirby and company did, that it wasn't their best team. They still navigated beating Texas twice. They won the SEC championship. I mean, I know you had that loss at Bama that was brutal. I saw both of Georgia's losses in person. At Bama, really tough. You almost stole that one. And then obviously Ole Miss, you got your butt whooped, right? And that was something very uncharacteristic of Georgia. The Notre Dame game, college ball playoff, that was uncharacteristic. So there's things to fix here for Georgia. But, guys, still, you think about it. The amount of active coaches that have won national titles, what is it? Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, Dabo Swinney. I think there's only 3, and he's one of them. He's one of them. So Kirby Smart, for my money, is still the best head football coach in this league, and I don't see him, to be honest with you, I don't see him relinquishing that title anytime soon. So, guys, what are your thoughts? How did I do when it comes to ranking the head coaches of the SEC in the 2024 postseason? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How would you rank the head coaches of the Southeastern Conference after the 2024 college football season? Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. Until next time, guys, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.